Welcome to Doomsday Clock Walkthrough by the Odd Couple Statue Reviews. This book's written by Geoff, penciled by Garry and coloured by Brad Anderson. This run started in November 2017 and is expected to finish roughly around July 2019. It continues on from the Button and Superman Reborn story arcs. Before we start, as this is a current run, there is some spoilers. However, I'm purposely leaving out some aspects of the story to allow people to read and enjoy the books. This Doomsday Clock walkthrough covers the first 8 issues of the 12-part issue series, and the first issue picks up after the events of the Watchmen comic book, or the movie if you prefer. As there's only little subtle differences between the comic and cinematic story arcs that really have little bearing on the Doomsday Clock run as a whole, so the choice is yours if you want to read the comic or watch the movie. In Book 1, we rejoin the Watchmen universe 2 months after the events of the comic, where Rorschach's journal exposes Ozymandias, Adrian Veidt's plan to make the world unify and prevent the Cold War reaching its inevitable nuclear conclusion, are now common knowledge to the world. Ozymandias is now the most wanted man in the world, and all the goodwill his plan has evaporated into a more severe level of distrust and hatred between the USA, its allies in Europe, and the Soviet bloc countries. There's rioting in the streets of America as their leaders prepare to launch a nuclear strike against the Russians when they cross the border into Poland. We find Rorschach is working with Adrian, and under his instructions breaks out of jail the two new characters called Marionette and the Mime. They are sadistic murderers and bank robbers. Marionette has an invisible laser wire which he uses to cut parts off of victims, while the Mime has invisible pistols and knives that he can use to great effect along with his amazing fighting prowess. Ozymandias prepares to take Rorschach, Marionette and the Mime to the DC Universe, as Ozymandias believes the only person who can save their world is Dr. Manhattan, who went missing shortly after the events of the Watchmen book. Ozymandias has tracked him to the DC Universe, where it appears he's been hiding out since, and along with a compass tuned to Dr. Manhattan's unique energy signature, his cat Bubardus, which is a clone of the one that was destroyed in the book or the movie. As the group is ready to travel to the DC Universe, we see Clark Kent asleep and having a nightmare of his parents' death. He wakes screaming and realises this is the first nightmare he's ever had in his life. The second issue provides us with a backstory on the Marionette and the Mime, and as the group arrive in the DC world, we see protests forming in Gotham City against the Batman, drawing parallels between the Watchmen world when there was rioting against their world's superheroes. We're also made aware of a new theory picking up traction in the media called the Superman theory, accusing the US government of creating an army of superheroes and villains and basically starting a metahuman arms race worldwide. Upon reaching the DC Universe, Ozymandias ties up Marionette and Mime and starts his planning by going to a local library with Rorschach to find out information on this new world they've arrived in. Ozymandias decides they need the help of the DC Universe's 2 most intelligent men to find Dr. Manhattan, and Ozymandias sends Rorschach to Gotham City to enlist the help of Bruce Wayne, while Ozymandias seeks out the most intelligent man in the world, Lex Luthor, in Metropolis. Rorschach eats Batman's breakfast when he arrives at the mansion before discovering the Batcave and triggering a silent alarm which brings Batman back. When he arrives, he berates Rorschach for eating his breakfast. Meanwhile, Ozymandias has broken into Lex Luthor's office in LexCorp Tower, and when discovered, explains he needs the world's smartest man to ensure the survival of both their worlds. Lex Luthor calls security and says he has until security gets there to explain, pretty much because he called him the most intelligent man in the world. Ozymandias explains what he did on his world. Lex just laughs at him and says, if you're the smartest man on your planet, I'd hate to see the dumbest. And Ozymandias offers his help in return for Luthor's, promising him anything he wants. It's at this point that he's rejoined by for a blast from his past. The comedian steps from the shadows, and Ozymandias dodges his bullet and it hits Luthor. The comedian revels in the fact that the last time they fought he was drunk and confused and he's eager for a rematch. The third book picks up where the comedian is reliving the events of his death in the Watchmen universe, and we find that Dr. Manhattan saved him just before he hit the pavement and brought him to the DC Universe. Then we're back to the fight. The comedian enjoys himself as the fight is a lot more evenly matched, and he comes out on top with Ozymandias having to jump out of the window to save himself. Irony, anyone? The comedian sees Ozymandias survive, curses and slinks back into the shadows. Meanwhile, Rorschach is telling his story to Batman and hands him the original Rorschach's journal detailing all the events that happened in Watchmen. Batman tells Rorschach to get some sleep while he reads the journal. We then see a familiar old face from the DC Universe, Johnny Thunder of the old Justice Society of America team, in a nursing home, and he remembers the old timeline where the JSA predated the Justice League of America, but it's treated as though he's insane and he is plotting his escape to reclaim his genie. Marionette and Mime have taken this time to break free from their bonds and decide to go exploring in Gotham and get a drink. And they just happen to arrive at one of the Joker's clubs, where they are told wearing makeup in his clubs is a big no-no. One of the thugs grabs Marionette and threatens to cut her throat, and Mime pulls out what looks to be his empty hand, but then proceeds to shoot the guy right in the head with his invisible gun. Up to now, you really thought the guy had a screw loose when he was grabbing these invisible weapons. In the space of a minute, every Joker goon in the place is dead, and they decide to find this Joker to teach him a lesson. Batman lets Rorschach sleep, and when he wakes up, tells him that he has read the journal and that he believes him and thinks he knows where Dr. Manhattan is hiding. Batman breaks into Arkham Asylum with Rorschach in tow and tricks him into a cell, telling him that Dr. Manhattan's in there, and locks him in there as he thinks Rorschach is mentally unstable and his story is completely bogus. The fourth book starts with us giving us a glimpse into the life lived by the new Rorschach and the events leading to him becoming the new Rorschach. After his origin story, we see him track Ozymandias to his secret Antarctic base, and he's about to kill him when Ozymandias breaks down and admits he has cancer and deserves to die. This is when they start to concoct their plan to bring Dr. Manhattan back and change everything. When we return to the DC Universe, we find Rorschach's escape with the aid of a as yet unidentified female patient known as Jane Doe, who believes his story and says that she's there to help him. In Book 5, Ozymandias escapes from hospital as worldwide tensions rise. Russia has closed its borders to all foreign nationals after Hawk and Dove are arrested in Russia for breaching their metahuman ban, and the papers are pushing the story of the Superman theory, much to the disgust of Lois Lane, who labels it as a scare campaign and is told by Perry White to go out there and find the truth. Rorschach and his mystery woman, who identifies herself as Saturn Girl from the Legion of Superheroes from the distant future, and promises to help Rorschach find Dr. Manhattan and tells her we need to find a great big light. Johnny Thunder escapes from the nursing home in search of his genie to help make things right. Ozymandias returns to the Owlship to find Batman sitting there waiting for him and says, "I've read all about you." Marionette and the Mime are torturing and killing Joker's henchmen wherever they can find them to try and find where the Joker's hiding out. Ozymandias tries to appeal to Batman's reasoning and points out how all the riots and anti-metahuman sentiment building is what doomed his world, and he considers the same thing happening here. Batman accuses him of causing the problems, and Ozymandias points out to have a look at the protesters and realise they're protesting against Batman and not him. On the world stage, Firestorm is engaging in a war of worlds with the Russians, and Black Adam breaches his agreement with the world to not operate outside Kandak's borders by killing terrorists in Syria and freeing an American journalist, making tensions rise globally. Lois Lane confronts Lex Luthor about the Superman theory and accuses him of being the mastermind. He flatly denies it and points the finger at the US government and an unnamed ex-Justice Leaguer who is conducting experiments to create more metahumans for the US government. Johnny Thunder arrives at a decrepit steel mill, the one once owned by Alan Scott of the JSA Green Lantern fame, and as he is drawn to the lantern thinking his genie is in there, he's attacked by local junkies, and Saturn Girl and Rorschach rescue him and retrieve him and the Green Lantern. Batman and Ozymandias start fighting in the Owlship, and Ozymandias tosses Batman to the crowd below and he is mobbed and knocked unconscious. The Joker introduces himself to Marionette and his mime, and his goons find Batman unconscious and bring him to the Joker, much to his delight. In Book 6, this book covers the origin story of Marionette and the Mime and the tragic set of circumstances that led to their life of crime. We're not going to go into it because it's an actually really good read, and I highly suggest that people pick it up for these two brand new characters and reading their backstory. We also see the Joker taking Marionette and the Mime along with Batman chained to a chair to a meeting of the Gotham Underworld. Marionette and the Mime kill the Joker's goons guarding them, and the Joker is thrilled and now treats them as equals. The Gotham villains are scared with the way things are going in the world and they all want to escape to Kandak, as Black Adam has offered amnesty to all metahumans. While debating this move, the comedian discovers them and starts opening fire as he's been tracking Marionette and the Mime to try and find out where Ozymandias has gone. Marionette and the Mime, upon realising the comedian is on their tail, run away to hide while he's distracted killing the villains of Gotham City. When they think they've lost him, they relax only to be woken by the comedian standing over them, threatening to find out where Ozymandias is, and he tells them, "I only need one of you alive so you can decide which one it is." To their surprise, this is where the Joker seizes his moment and electrocutes the comedian and notices a smiling button on his chest and goes, "That's fantastic," and steals it. Marionette and the Mime deduce that the comedian knows where Dr. Manhattan is and decide to torture him with the Joker to find out where he's hiding. In Book 7, we see that Dr. Manhattan made a slight change in the DC history to events in 1940, leading to the death of Alan Scott and therefore preventing the formation of the Justice Society of America and setting off a new chain of events. With all the events around the world creating a general mistrust of metahumans, the only hero with access to every country in the world and who everyone trusts is Superman, and he's seen rescuing civilians in Libya and helping out around the world where he can. While the comedian is being tortured by Marionette and the Mime, Batman breaks free and starts to attack them all, but he is seriously outnumbered, and this is when Rorschach and Ozymandias arrive and use the Lantern and Bubastis, the cat, to draw Dr. Manhattan out of hiding. Dr. Manhattan then teleports himself, the comedian, Rorschach and Marionette and Mime to a secret location so they can talk in peace. Ozymandias begs for Dr. Manhattan to return home and fix their world, but he refuses, saying that he's in the middle of something important here. Rorschach pleads that Ozymandias has changed and has cancer, to which Dr. Manhattan tells him the truth, that Ozymandias does not have cancer and is in perfect health. Dr. Manhattan explains that he has come to this world because of the hope it emanates and thought he could take his place among them, but his visions show him how the most hopeful among them heading towards him now hopeless, and then there's nothing. He then sends them back to the point he took them from and disappears. Joker starts laughing while Rorschach and Ozymandias start fighting, and Rorschach loses it and starts belting into the Joker. Ozymandias uses this distraction to make it back to the Owl ship while everyone's fighting, and Saturn Girl reads his thoughts and tells him you can't do what he has planned. So Ozymandias knocks out Johnny Thunder and Saturn Girl and smugly says, I have a plan. We then see Dr. Manhattan's visions of Superman yelling at Dr. Manhattan and running towards him with fire in his eyes, and then it turns blank and there's nothing. Dr. Manhattan starts to question whether he destroys this world or not and what his visions really mean. Book 8 opens with Ozymandias reading secret files in the White House as part of his plan. The world teeters closer to the brink of all-out war as Firestorm engages in battle with Russian superheroes in Moscow. When he's knocked into the crowd and they attack him, he panics and transmutes the entire crowd to glass. The Russian government calls it a terrorist attack and declares war on the United States of America. Superman leaves Metropolis quickly and heads to Kandak to ask if Black Adam has seen Firestorm and if he's there. Black Adam admits that he is not there, but Superman then continues to lecture Black Adam on his actions outside of Kandak, to which Black Adam replies that he isn't doing anything different from what Superman does. Meanwhile, back in Metropolis, Lois Lane receives a USB stick with files on the exploits of the now deleted from history Justice Society of America's deeds in World War II. Superman finds Firestorm hiding in Chernobyl, trying to transmute a young child from the crowd back to his normal form, but he's failing miserably. Superman tells him to try harder and he believes in him, and Firestorm successfully transmutes the child back. We then cut to Vladimir Putin, who's called a press conference to announce that Russia is declaring war on the United States, and Superman arrives to try and talk him down. Surprisingly, Putin says to let Superman speak, and he says that Superman speaks not for America but for all people on the planet, conveying the goodwill that Superman's built up over the years. Superman tries to explain what happened with Firestorm was an accident and that he can fix it, and starts making a speech about the Superman theory and the hatred that he's spreading around the world, particularly against metahumans. Batman is listening and tells him to stop talking and not pick a side, but Superman continues defending Firestorm until Putin stops him and declares they have proof that Firestorm is an American agent. Firestorm chooses this exact moment to appear, and before he can explain himself, the Soviet military opens fire on him, causing Superman to leap in and defend the young boy Firestorm was carrying. Russia's superheroes leap in to stop Superman and Firestorm, and the world watches in absolute horror as Superman starts to attack the Soviet heroes and the military. Firestorm starts to become unstable and he's starting to lose control when Batman tells Superman that is not Firestorm in front of him, and he begins to go supernova, wiping out all of Moscow and everyone in the area. Ozymandias, watching this on a TV screen, just smiles and says, "It begins." And I'm stopping it here, guys, because there's another 4 parts to come. This review here is designed to actually get you to read the books and get excited about it as I am. So in summary, Geoff Johns and the DC writing team have clearly done it again in writing a book that pays a true homage to the Watchmen and the current Rebirth universe. Where they will go with this is only time will tell. We hope you've enjoyed our review of the Doomsday Clock, and remember there is more to this story than what we've divulged here, and we hope that you enjoy it. Thanks very much, guys, and remember to like and subscribe.